Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be talking about some dragon books. This video kind of came around because I was trying to think of ideas for a sit down video, and I was looking through what I'm doing this month, and the reading vlog that I'm currently working on, you should see it. It should be the video before this if everything goes to plan. If it doesn't, then it should be the video after this. In that vlog, you can see me read Dragonflight, The First Chronicles of Pern, The Copper Promise by Jen Williams, and The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. And as I said, I needed a sit-down video, and I was like, hey, it'd be nice to do a kind of recommendation video to go along with my vlog. So that's what this is. It's kind of like a little companion video. Let's talk about the 5 dragon books that I like the most. Obviously, there's so many dragon books. There's so many different types. Good dragons, there's bad dragons, but you know, kind of like the talking and annoying people, and then there's like the ones who are just like animals and all this. So there's a lot of different ways people can write dragons, and I feel like I have a pretty good division. I think the first book that I'm going to recommend is the book that immediately, when I said if I did a video recommending dragon books, what would I choose? This was immediately the book that jumped into my mind, and that is Temeraire by Naomi Novik. And this is a 9-book long series. You can see all of the rest of them along there. I read this end of 2022, start of 2023, I think. This series is taking place in an alternate universe where we have dragons, and it is set during the Napoleonic Wars, and we follow Captain Will Lawrence, and he is a captain of a ship. He has earned a lot of respect for this. He has a fiance, he has a life, he has like respect and all of this. And then one day they are getting a skirmish with a French ship, and they win, and they get to take whatever's on the ship. And when they do this, they discover there is a dragon's egg on board. None of these men know anything about dragons because they're not part of the Air Force, but they kind of group together to try and think of the basic care for this egg. And when this egg hatches, it immediately bonds with Captain Lawrence, and he decides to call this dragon Temeraire. And so he now has a dragon, and so he has to basically change his whole life to join the Air Force of the dragons. And it's just, I think it's very much character based. Temeraire is a character, like such a character. It is mostly told through Captain Lawrence's point of view. It is a very formal writing style. I personally really liked it. If you've read Naomi Novik's books, she's very good at changing her writing style from one book to the next. Like this writing style, absolutely nothing like A Deadly Education. Very readable. It's obviously a very short book. It's such an engaging plot, but it is just history. So I think if you're someone who doesn't care about history, if you don't care about war times, especially like military history, I don't think this series would necessarily be for you. But if you even like slightly are interested in it, I think it's a very interesting take on this time in history. You grow with these characters, you get to care about them so much. As I said, Temeraire is just like one of the most entertaining dragons. Is a dragon that has its own mind, will say what he wants. And I think later on in the series, we do actually get his point of view, and it's very funny being in his point of view because he just wants things his way. Like, he's like, I'm going to do it my way. And Captain Lawrence is just constantly like, no, we're part of a team. We're part of the British Army. We're, you know, we have to behave ourselves. And Temeraire is like, but I'm a dragon. I can do what I want. I actually bought this secondhand. I don't buy books secondhand that often, but I saw this. I hadn't really heard many people talk about it. I had read Spinning Silver, I had read A Deadly Education. I like them, but like I didn't love them, and so I bought this secondhand because I was like, the pages are fairly yellow, but like the spine is in pretty good condition and all of that. And I was like, it's like a $5, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a go. And I had no way of knowing that like this series would just overtake my heart. I think I gave every single one of them 4 stars except for I think number 8 in the series, which I gave a 5-star. And that seems to be a lot of people's least favorite book. It has the amnesia trope, but I ate it up. I just love a bit of angst, and there's just so much drama. There's so much drama in this series, and I just love the dragons. I love how they're just so, they are their own characters. They come off the page really well. But yeah, as I said, I just picked it up on a whim, and I'm so glad that I did. So that's recommendation number 1. So recommendation number 2, I think we'll move to kind of like the other side. So like these are very much more of the animal type of dragons, and that is A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan. And again, another book that quite surprised me, and it did kind of give me a want and a need to try and find more light academia books. So this is the first book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series by Mary Brennan, and we follow Lady Trent, and she is elderly, and she has decided that she is going to write her memoirs, and she has released multiple books on the study of dragons because that is what she has done her entire life, but nobody really knows the story behind all of this research. There has been a lot of rumors and scandals involving her throughout her time, and she has decided that she's going to clear the record straight. And so she just comes and she writes down her entire story, and she doesn't like cherry pick. She says, I know some of you are going to freak out about the fact that I did this, but I did. I always say that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of first person writing style, except for when it's like in this kind of a format, when it is one character by themselves, then I don't mind it as much. I think if there's a book where there's multiple point of views but they're all written from first person, I find a lot of the time authors don't do the best job at distinguishing, but this is purely hers, and also it makes sense because she's writing down her memoirs, so like it fits perfectly in the story. I really liked it. I really liked the tone. It was very humorous, it was very tongue-in-cheek. I believe I buddy read this with Emma. I also buddy read the last couple of Temeraire books with Emma as well. Each book in the series follows a different one of her adventures, and obviously she wants to study dragons, and she travels around different parts of the world to do this. And as I said, these are very much more kind of like animal like. It's very scientific in she's very matter of fact about it, and I really enjoy that. I think, again, as I said, I like all types. Like I like the more like, you know, what would it be like if dragons existed? And that's very much what this book is like, where it's like, okay, so dragons exist. I mean, we study everything. We study insects and primates, and, you know, we'd study all sorts of animals. And so like people would, like, if dragons existed, they would definitely study dragons as well. And so I think just like how much thought she has put into it. It literally says on the back that she uses her background in anthropology, archaeology, and folklore for fictional purposes, and that is exactly how I describe this. You can see, like, it's very much, I would say, based kind of on historical England. So again, another kind of historical leaning vibe, but in this, she's very much like, it is a different world, but it is very much inspired by it. But like the way she like designs society, and like, yes, it is very much based on it, but like the detail she goes into, you can just tell that like she knows so much more about, like, she can't put it on the page, but she knows every single detail about this world. And I feel the same about if you didn't know, she co-wrote this series, the Mask of Mirror series, and I feel the same about that. Like, they put a lot onto the page, even some of it is unnecessary, but like you can tell they know everything. They have thought of everything, and I love that. And I think Lady Trent, she is such a fascinating character. You don't necessarily get attached to like dragons in this one as you do with the Temeraire book, but you do, like, you see her love and her passion for it, and she is such an interesting character because you see her struggles with, like, you know, what society expects of her, and like she does things that are reckless sometimes, and she says stuff that maybe she shouldn't, and she's not always 100% the most likable, but you can just like understand her so well. And as I said, you can feel her passion for like the dragons, and as I said, I just love how like well thought out all of like the science and stuff is in here. And again, I think I gave every single book a 4-star. Maybe the final one, I gave a 3-star because there's something that happens in that book that I'm like, I didn't really feel like it was necessary for the whole series, because basically the whole time, like, yes, obviously it is a fantasy book because it's a fictional world and there's dragons and all of that, but it still feels very real, if that makes sense. Like, it's a fantasy book, but it's very much not magical fantasy, and I feel like something happened in the last book that made it feel a little more like magical fantasy, and I didn't actually really like that, which surprised me because usually I love me some magical fantasy. But yeah, anyway, overall I would recommend the series. So I think I'm going to talk about the one that actually needs to get talked about the most, the one that definitely has the least amount of readers because it is a self-published fantasy book, and that is The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae. So this I actually read last year, I think during Realmathon, and I just ate up the first 2 books as well as the novella. I had such a good time with these, like, such a solid fantasy world. This is like epic high fantasy. So we follow Fen, and he wakes up and he has no memories when he wakes up, there is a dragon spirit that is basically mocking him and taunting him. And then these two women come along. They're very skeptical of him because how can somebody remember absolutely nothing? And eventually they agree to help him, and they say that they will basically smuggle him to the mainland so he can try and figure out what has happened to his life. So obviously, as I mentioned, there is dragon spirits, so there are multiple different dragon spirits in the world. I will say they're maybe not like the most prominent, but they are like very important in kind of like an underlying way, because like the times that they're mentioned, it's very clear that they are very important to the world and how it is run. And if things kind of go out of balance because of these dragon spirits, things could change dramatically for the worse or for the better. As I said, this is a self-published book, so I highly recommend that you give it a go. When I read it, I would listen to the audiobooks on scribd. I'm not sure are they still there, but if they are, I totally recommend. But also you can like buy a signed and personalized copy off our website, which I have. And again, these characters, like, you really feel for them, and like I think it's interesting to follow characters because like while they are kind of the heroes of our story, they don't want to be the heroes of the story, and they are very much selfish, and they want not even they're a little selfish because they want their family, they want their partners, or they want their children, or they want their people to be safe. They don't care about anyone else. I mean, they do, but like not as much. And so it's very interesting reading about that, because like some of them, they do things that you're like, no, don't do that, because their mind is set on that one goal, which is protect my family. It's not necessarily dragons, it's dragon spirits. They are still very much in the same vein, but like just I think the way that they're written is very interesting. So like they kind of have different kind of abilities. So like there's like, you know, obviously like the Iron Crown, like there's one dragon spirit that is kind of connected to Iron, which he has kind of like a bond with a human, and that makes this human kind of be able to use the dragon to manipulate Iron. There's multiple other ones as well. And I think it was a very interesting world building, just such a creative writer. I think really solid writing. I thought it was very engaging. Like it is a very big book, but like you can absolutely fly through it, and just like really characters that you feel for. Obviously a very fun and unique world, and I'm so excited to see how it goes. I do think I will reread them before I get to the final book, but I just had such a good time when I read them last year. They were some of my highest rated books of last year. They were high 4 stars, but like I think they made it to the top 10 if I'm remembering. I think they were my best books. Next, we'll talk about the book that probably needs to be recommended the least. So we've talked about the book that I think more people need to hear about. And the next one, I don't think people don't need to hear about these, but I think they've already heard about them. And that is, of course, Just the Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. So I will say the dragon content dramatically increases as the series go on. So like Assassin's Apprentice, Farseer trilogy, minimal dragons. Dragon mentions, not necessarily actual dragons. Live ship traders, again, we get like one dragon and a lot of dragon lore. This one is where we start getting the dragons. By the Rainwald Chronicles and the final series in The Fits and the Fool, dragons galore. Dragons galore, guys. So there's a steady increase in dragon content as the books go on. But this series, obviously, I don't think I need to like talk about it really that much because everybody knows it. I love it so desperately. I still have not finished the final book. Don't talk to me about it, okay? So this series, so Assassin's Apprentice follows Fitz, and he is the illegitimate son of the Crown Prince. And when his father finds out about this, he abdicates his position and flees to the countryside, leaving Fitz to be raised by the stable master Burrich. And then one day he kind of catches the attention of the king, and he decides that he's going to make use of Fitz and train him up to be the royal assassin. And we just follow Fitz and all of the terrible things that happen to him in life. I love this series so much. It is, I genuinely think, some of the best character work just ever. Like nobody does it like Robin Hobb when it comes to making you feel for a character, whether that is positively or negatively. Like, and she is so good at changing your mind, because you will have a character, you will despise them, and then next thing, she just like slowly, you're like, that was a cool thing they did. Then next thing, by 3 books later, I love you, I would die for you. And just incredible. Like, she just speechless, like, so good. Fitz is probably one of my favorite fictional characters ever. He fits into a category I call lovable dumbass. Like, he is well-meaning, he tries his best, but he does not work out. And the next book I'm going to talk about also features what I would consider a lovable dumbass. Like, they try, but you're just looking at them like, don't do that, don't, no, no. Oh, they've done it. They've done it. And just being in Fitz's head, like, just, oh, I'm pretty sure as soon as I finish, I want to so desperately reread the original, like the first series in this, but I refuse to start a reread until I finish Assassin's Fate. But also I don't want to finish Assassin's Fate because I know I'm going to cry. I know I'm going to just like, I'm probably going to be in like the biggest reading slump of my life when I finish that book. As I said, so then this is the Life Ship Trader series in a different part of the world, and it's like a trading town. We follow one of these families, and it is told in third person, multiple point of views, whereas all of Fitz's series are first person Fitz. And basically there are these magical ships that can travel through the waters to the Rain Wilds. So they are in contact with the Rain Wild people, and they have like such incredible goods and all of this. And basically after, I think, is it 3 generations of a family dies on one of these ships, it becomes a live ship. So basically it quickens and becomes almost a sentient person. And the Vivacia, which is this family's ship, is about to quicken, and Althea has grown up on the ship, has presumed that this will be hers, but as her father dies, it is revealed that her sister's husband is actually going to be the captain of the ship. So she goes and searches for a job on a different ship to try and like prove her worth, basically. And again, just like incredible character work, a lot more characters and a lot more different. As I said, it's third person as opposed to first person, so you're not in their head as much, but you still definitely get that deep emotional connection to them. Again, you love some, you hate some, you love then hate some, then you hate then love some. And again, I think a lot of interesting lore added to this, especially dragon lore. As I said, we're building up to kind of like more dragon content. We have one final book series to talk about, and as I said, as I also consider lovable dumbass, and that is The Rune of Kings by Jen Lyons. Kieran, you just gotta roll your eyes at him sometimes. This series is told in 2 timelines. So we start the story and Kieran is in a prison. Talon asks him to tell her the story of how he ended up here. And so he starts the story of when he was getting sold as a slave. And Talon stops him and says, no, that's not where your story starts. I'm going to tell it. And so she starts further back, and she tells the story of him growing up in this city and how he was like a son, an apprentice, but he stole on the side. And one day a demon is in one of these houses, and it kind of catches his attention. And this demon kind of tracks him down, and this obviously catches the attention of the royals, and one of these royal families claims Kieran as their lost son. And eventually the 2 timelines converge, and we see how he has ended up in this mess, let's say. I would say these are more like quite vicious dragons. They have a very interesting backstory. Again, kind of like slow to reveal lore. This series is just one of my favorite series of all time. It's definitely, I think it's top 3. This, Realm of the Elderlings, and A Dark Shade of Magic, I think, are my 3 favorite series of all time. And I just love it. I think the characters are obviously the standout. If you want me to absolutely love, adore, like scream, cry, throw up over a series, you gotta have the characters that have wormed their way into my heart, that I'm like, what are you doing to me? But there is so much more than just characters. Like, yes, the characters are just so lovable to me, but there is more. And the world, it's just so detailed. There is so much going on. There is like shape-changing people. Who's who? There is reincarnations. There is gods, and then there's god kings, and then there is people who are pretending to be gods, who might or might not be gods, and there are people who, like, everybody wants a part of Kieran, and there's like this prophecy about him, and he might destroy the world. And despite the fact it's so big, I think it's really fast. I will say, like, the first like I think 100, 200 pages. It took me like 3 weeks to read. I was reading like 10 pages at a time. Then that last 400 pages, I think I read it in like a day. Like I could not stop. And it's just like so engaging, just like so fast paced, so much going on. Like it is a series that makes me want to take out a pen and paper because it makes me want to like write down notes. I actually still on my phone have all of the notes because I was taking notes. Dragons aren't necessarily the forefront, but they are pretty large antagonists, let's say. And also she did actually release another dragon book last year, which is highly inspired by Dragonflight. And that is The Sky on Fire, which is just like such a stunning cover. And I actually read this before I read Dragonflight, obviously, but I do actually definitely see the similarities. So those are the 5 dragon books that I would recommend. Thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me down below, what is your favorite dragon book? You're only allowed one. Tell me one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.